Hey, everybody, my name is Jim Merle, and I've been married to my wonderful wife, Jennifer, which you've already met by this point, for about 24, almost 25 years. And I've been a parent for 19 years, within a month or two, approximately 20 years. Okay, so I just want to pause for just a moment or two tonight and share with you my experience about being a parent in all forms, as well as give you some suggestions. Maybe it's some mindsets that you ought to use to make yourself a better parent in whatever form you might see that in. Okay. Now, before I go any further with that and explain that, let me apologize up front for having not been able to be there with you tonight. I would have much rather been sitting down with you face to face, getting to know you, getting to interact with you, perhaps even being able to answer some of your questions. But I'm actually at home right now being a parent, so I'm not able to be there, but at least you're there with my wife and so many other great people. I know you're doing absolutely great at that. And thank you, by the way, for being there and for training yourself to become a parent in maybe a brand new form, but at least in a better form nonetheless. So, with that being said, there are basically a few things I want you to consider with me. And the first one comes down to listening very carefully to some words I'm about to say. And as you're listening to them, ask yourself, do you hear anything consistent in these terms? Okay, so listen very closely. Here I go. Parent, grandparent, step-parent, godparent, biological parent, single parent, co-parent, foster parent, or adoptive parent. Do you hear anything consistent between those terms? You say, well, Jim, that's easy. I hear it very plainly. What is consistent in all of those terms is the fact that every one of those people are being called or considered a parent. And that's absolutely true. That's what I wanted you to hear. In every one of these cases, where it's a parent, a grandparent, a foster parent, a step parent, an adoptive parent, a birth parent, a single parent, or whatever you might add to that word parent, each of these people are doing their best to be a parent to someone. Now, if you think about what the word parent means, it basically implies that you're a caregiver, you're a lover of, you're an assistant to a child or someone who needs your assistance in that way. As a matter of fact, sometimes they're referred to, a parent at least is, as a guardian, okay? And one of the things that I've had to learn kind of the hard way, albeit over time, but I have learned, and I'm so thankful that I did, is that being a parent, no matter what form that is, whether it's a parent, a grandparent, a foster parent, an adoptive parent, a co-parent, a single parent, no matter what terms you put along with that, the root of that continues to be the same, and that is you are a parent. And in my mind, in order to be a great parent in any of those situations, you have to understand that in all of those situations, you feel exactly the same role. Okay, now your duties may be a little bit different. Some of the things that you have to deal with may be a little bit different, but in the end of it, deep down in your heart, in the heart of your soul, you have to be a parent to that person, regardless of whatever type of word might be put in front of that. Okay, so with that being said, I want to share with you 4 things that I promise you every child deserves, whether they might be a foster child, an adoptive child, a birth child, a grandchild, a stepchild, whatever. These 4 things are things that every child deserves, and probably even more than that, absolutely needs from you. And I hope this will give you some encouragement and maybe some guidance along the way. So the very first one is every child, no matter what the situation, they need from you acceptance, okay? They need from you acceptance. Now, you already realize this. You've gone through a number of these classes. Maybe you knew it before, but these children that are about to come in your home, whether it be foster children, ultimately adopted children, maybe a mix of both, every single one of those children are struggling in some way to be accepted by their families or accepted by their peer groups. Now, in most situations, the children that are going to come in your home in the next several months or maybe even years are going to be children that have been in extremely, extremely difficult situations. Most times, those children are coming out of situations where they've been abused, neglected, basically everything under the sun that is horrible that you can imagine and terrible to endure, that child may have come from that situation. Now, there are the rare cases where you've got a family member, a parent, for example, that they're doing the best they can. They love their children with all their heart. But when it comes down to it, maybe there's been a financial reversal, maybe there's been a death, maybe there's just been some outside unavoidable circumstance that comes in where their child needs to be removed for their safety or for the well-being, or maybe the parent just does that because they absolutely love that child so deeply that they would rather see them be in a different place. But in most cases, That is not the case. In most cases, these children that are removed from these homes and brought into your care are children that are absolutely been through some horrible, horrible things. And I won't go into details of that. I'm sure during the course of time you have or will discuss that in these classes, but they've been through some terrible, terrible situations, which always, or typically, I should say, include things like abuse, like neglect. You imagine everything terrible they may have been through that. And that child that's coming into your home, that's scared to death, that's terrified to be in a new situation, has no idea who you are, what your intentions are. The number one thing they need when they step foot in that home from moment number one is they need to begin to feel from you, not just from your mouth and from your lips, but from your heart, that you accept them how they are. Now, you're going to be doing everything you can to mold them, to assist them, in some cases to change their mindsets and what they do and how they react to things. But at the end of the day, you still accept them for who they are and for what they have been through, because they probably in their life, particularly in most situations where they've been abused or neglected, they've not been accepted. They've not been treated like the child that they deserve to be treated. And they have not been treated by a parent that would define the word parent, caregiver, guardian, that sort of thing. So number one, they need your acceptance. Number two, they're going to need your assistance, okay? It doesn't matter if it's your birth child, your biological child, your adoptive child, your foster child, or grandchild, whatever, stepchild, any child that comes into your home, they're going to need some type of assistance, because in essence, they are just that. They are children. They're kiddos. They're people who are trying to grow, who are trying to mold and develop themselves into the adults we would hope they would be, where they could be successful in life and have, the things in life that you most enjoy, you most hope to enjoy in life. These children are going to need your assistance. And whether or not they're your birth child or a foster child or an adopted child, a lot of times that assistance comes down to just doing a lot of things for them, some of which will not be that inconvenient. Things like doctor visits, things like staying at home with them they're sick, things like taking them to ball games and practices, things like sitting down to help them one-on-one their homework, things like sitting them down to talk with them, to discipline them, to make sure they understand the path between right and wrong. They are going to need your assistance in every way. And I think it's too easy for us as parents when we start to divide things up between being a foster parent, adopted parent, and birth parent, that we begin to say, okay, here's my birth children and they get all this assistance, but these other children, they're different. No, they're not. They're to be loved, they're to be cared for, and they're to be assisted in every way that you possibly can. So I'm just going to give you some insider information. When that first foster/adopted child steps into your home, they're going to have needs. They're going to have things that they need assistance with that you're not going to expect. They're going to be dealing with some issues that maybe children that you've had by birth or by some other relationship have not dealt with this far. Maybe they're going to need some counseling. Maybe they're going to need some special, psychological help, maybe some medical help that you're not traditionally used to dealing with. But just understand, you're a parent. You're not just a foster parent or just an adopted parent. You're a parent. That's the root of that word. And therefore, they're going to need your assistance. They're going to need your help. So just be prepared that there'll be a lot of situations that you're going to get into real quick where you're not exactly comfortable. You're not exactly experienced in those areas. But nonetheless, as a parent, a loving parent that you are, and I know you are, you're going to have to assist them in many ways. So the first things they need happen to be acceptance. Second, they need assistance. Number three, they're going to need attention. Now, you know as well as I do, if you've ever had multiple children in your home. I happen to have 5 children right now. 2 of them were what you might call birth children, the other 3 being adopted children. Every single one of them are vying at every moment really for my attention. Even though my oldest daughter's 19, she's out of the house, she lives out of home, there are still times when that phone rings or when I hear that gravel turning in the driveway and she's pulling up and she needs my help. She needs someone just to give that listening ear to. She needs someone to help her with the things that she deals with in life. And all my little biddies, as I call them, that at this point in time are ages 7, 6, and 5. Those children particularly, they're always vying for my attention. Every time I walk through the house all day, for all of them, I hear, look, Daddy, look, see this, see that. They're vying for my attention. And these children that are coming into your home very soon, whether they be foster children or ultimately maybe they could be adopted children, depending on your needs and theirs, they're going to need a ton of your attention. It's going to take time. It's going to take take enormous amounts of time. You're going to have nights where you're not able to go to bed as early as you like. We're going to have mornings where you have to get up a lot earlier than you would hope. And there are going to be times when you're going to have to spend some very special time with those children, even to the supposed or accused, I should say, neglect of other children that may be in your home. There are times when you're going to be sitting down, spending time giving that one person attention. I think it's good to balance that. We certainly have to balance that. But just be aware, these children coming in your home are going to need some special assistance. Many of them are behind in school. Many of them have certain medical issues or psychological issues, and they just need someone to sit down there with a listening ear and with some good wisdom and some advice to help them and to guide them along the way. And I know you're prepared for that, but just know there's going to be a lot of your time taken up with giving attention specifically to children like these. Number 4, adding to the list, not only acceptance, assistance, and attention, they're definitely going to need some appreciation. I mentioned earlier that many of these children are coming out of situations where they've been abused, or they've been particularly neglected. They've not gotten the basic necessities in life. They've never had anyone to spend that attention on them or whatever, and they're going to need to know that they're appreciated. You're going to have to be kind of the biggest cheerleader in the house, and every time these children come into your home, maybe they've gone off to school, or maybe they're a little older, they're teenagers, they got some little jobs, some summer jobs or something. Really, anytime when they come into your home, you're going to have to constantly tell them, you know what, I'm glad you're here. I'm so happy that you're here. I know you're in a tough situation. I know that maybe you're where you don't necessarily want to be right now, but I want you to know I appreciate you. I appreciate you for the things that you do. And sometimes you may have to kind of strain at the gnat to find those things. You may have to look, really hard to find things that child does that are positive, or at least seem to be positive to you. But I promise you, they need that appreciation. They need that reinforcement. They need that person to come behind them and just give them those, subtle pats on the backs or hugs around the neck, and just to be encouraged and told, you know what, you are good. You've got great qualities. You got things about you that are improving, things about you that are developing and growing. And I just want to continue to remind you, as a parent, in general, no word before that. As a parent, I want you to know how much you're appreciated, how much we love and care for you, and how much we want to be there for you and to give you the things that you need. Now, I could add to this list for probably 100 more things. I certainly love putting my little A's together like that with acceptance, assistance, attention, and appreciation. I could add more to that, but I think these basic 4, that's what every child needs. Now, if you want to look to them and just for understanding's sake, say, well, here's my birth child, or here's my grandchild, or my stepchild, or my adoptive child, or my foster child, it's okay to go ahead and do that. But deep down in your heart, I have to remember, and I hope that you will as well, that in all of that, they are just a child, and you are just a parent. And your love, your care, your concern in these areas particularly, that needs to be the same across the board. And I promise you, if you'll do this, even as I do this in my home every day, or try to, I'm never that good at it, but if I try to do this in my home every day, to give my children these 4 things, I think I've given them so much that will help them to advance in life, and particularly help to build our relationship together, so that I can be not just any parent, but a special parent. Thank you so much. I apologize again, I couldn't be there with you, but thank you so much for what you're doing and for the efforts you're putting in. You're making a difference on our entire society, particularly these children who certainly need you.